Ladies and gentlemen, the United States government has a shadow government that spies on the American people. It launches false flag terror attacks against its own citizens, starts illegal and unjust wars for resources and imperial control, and is hell-bent on destroying what's left of our constitutional republic in order to establish a one-world government in its ruins. Those of you tuning into our program for the first time, we probably quickly realize that you're not watching the mainstream news media because the truth will not be televised, at least not by any of the major television networks who are owned and controlled by the mega corporations and the military-industrial complex. You will, however, routinely get a steady dose of the truth right here on the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Darren McBreen, and it is April 6th, 2012, and here's a quick look at what we have lined up for you this evening. Tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News. Has the Obama administration launched a vendetta campaign against Sheriff Joe Arpaio? Now the Department of Justice wants to install an embedded monitor in Sheriff Joe's office, and Sheriff Joe ain't having it. Then, a look at the green totalitarian movement associated with Agenda 21. Darren McBreen and John Bown investigate. Plus, good news on the fight against GMO, InfoWars Nightly News reporter contest entries, and Dr. Laura Presley in studio with her latest campaign for Austin City Council and her crusade to remove the dangerous chemical fluoride from the nation's water supply. All that and more coming up during the next 30 minutes or so. But first, let's move right on to our top headlines. The Department of Justice attempts to install their own embedded monitor in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's office. As most of you are aware, Sheriff Joe recently launched an investigation into alleged President Obama's birth certificate with the intention of proving its authenticity and putting this whole issue to rest. But as it turns out, his team of investigators proved without a doubt that not only is Obama's birth certificate a complete fake, but in all honesty, it's a sloppy amateur forgery and amateur at best. And now it looks like that Sheriff Joe might be a target as the Obama administration, well, they're really going after him. They're preparing a lawsuit against him for racial profiling as they claim his department is illegally targeting Hispanics as possible illegal aliens. And now the DOJ is even trying to install a court-appointed embedded monitor stationed right there inside Arpaio's office. And folks, we're talking full-time. This is a duly elected official who represents, roughly 4, maybe 5 million people within the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. And, Joe flat out refused to let him put that thing in his office. He told him to get it the hell out of there. It should be interesting to see what other dirty tricks the Obama administration has in store for Arpaio, but they got their hands full because I have a feeling he's the kind of guy that really doesn't get intimidated very easily. Our next story, paralysis cases spike in wake of Bill Gates' polio vaccination effort in India. Expert medical pediatricians in India have criticized the World Health Organization and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for their promise of polio eradication without noting the devastating side effects its vaccinations could and do inflict. Numerous problems have surfaced from what doctors in Delhi have termed an unethical advocacy that has spanned more than a decade. Now, there are literally, I think there was something like 47,000 cases of non-polio paralysis reported in 2011. Just happened to be the same year that India was declared polio-free. Aaron Dykes goes into more detail in an article posted on our website where he compares the unethical partnership between the WHO and private entities with the corporation that we saw back during the H1N1 scare. And, this is a deliberate campaign to create panic and false disaster. The article is posted by Aaron on Infowars.com. And now, some good news in the fight against GMO, as Poland announces a complete ban on Monsanto's genetically modified maize. In addition to being linked to a number of health problems, The pollen originating from this particular GM strain is called Mon H10, what may actually be devastating the dwindling bee population as well. So more and more countries, at least outside the United States anyway, are standing up against Monsanto, possibly the most corrupt and evil corporation ever. Hungary and India, for example, have recently slammed Monsanto with biopiracy charges. So certainly some good news on that front. Let's hope that that carries over to the United States.